the shadow of your smile when you are gone will color all my dreams and light the dawn. Look into my eyes, my love, and see all the lovely things you are to me. Your wistful little star was far too high. A teardrop kissed your lips, and so did I. Now when I remember spring and all the love that joy can bring, I will be remembering the shadow of your smile. Just want you to enjoy this moment from my radio show Dream Farm Radio. This is pianist Yasko Kubota, and you can hear a little bit of her husband Archie playing bass, but she's really the feature here, Archie K. Check out. This lady was a believer. She's with the Lord now, but imagine this in worship. The shadow of your smile when you are gone will color all my dreams and light the dawn. Look into my eyes, my love, and see all the lovely things you are to me. Our wistful little star was far too high. A teardrop kissed your lips, and so did I. Now when I remember spring and all the joy that love can bring, I will be remembering the shadow of your smile, 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 the shadow of your smile. How the shadow of your smile, the shadow of your smile. I don't know. I was just looking through files because now I have some MP3s to add, and I found that tune, which was one of the feature songs from One of my first seasons of Dream Farm Radio in 2011, 10 years ago, when I was really, really learning how to live fear-free, that's when I recorded that song for Dream Farm Radio. And if you don't yet know about Dream Farm Radio, it is the proof of concept. dreamfarmradio.org. Because when I moved to Dream Farm and the Lord showed me that I had a venue, a renovated barn that could be like a jazz club, I was terrified. I couldn't play for anyone in a like even one person in a room. I had a degree in classical guitar performance and I had done a couple of albums, but I was still so not free from fear that despite whatever my resume said, I was becoming that anemone of avoider par excellence. And so when I sat in my farm in New Hampshire, 3,000 miles away from Southern California, where all the music is and all the musicians are and where everything is made, happening, and the Lord said to me, Julie, now's your time. On a historic farm, established in 1743, I'm sitting on my couch and the Lord says, Julie, now is your time. And I knew what he meant. No more hiding. No more hiding in your core competency of being a great mom and a ministry person. You have to get over the paralyzing stage fright. And what resulted in that, over a process, which I've shared with you before, and I probably will share with you again, came Dream Farm Radio, where I had literally some of the best musicians on the globe, because they were in the Boston area going to school, wound up coming to my farm an hour north of Boston to record radio shows in my barn, because I offered them what I wanted most, which was a loving place to share their gifts and the honor of really listening to what they had to share. And every time they came on the show, I made them play with me, or I made me play with them. So every time that was a go do something that scares you. Oh my gosh, this big mucky muck person is coming. You're going to ask them to pray. They're going to play with you. What are you going to play? Are you going to be able to do it? Do you have the chops to keep up with them? Can you be a band leader and show them what you need from them? If when it's your tune, you're gonna have to speak to them in quality musician language and know what you want and know what you need and direct them so they can back you up. Sometimes I was playing piano and they were playing other instruments. Sometimes I was playing guitar. Sometimes it was just vocals. Sometimes it was standards, which are always, believe it or not, the hardest for me to do. And in 2011, Dream Farm Radio, Yasuko Kubota and Archie K, they were a husband and wife team. She was Japanese, came and did a show with me, and it's still in our archives. And the title of the show was Before Yo, Y-O. I don't know why. That was a joke from something in the show. Before Yo, or, Yasuko Kubota and Archie K. And they came, and you can hear her piano. She just couldn't be stopped. She was a fountain. She was one of these pianists that had to do an arpeggio up to the top note of the keyboard at the end of every phrase. Bling, bing, and a zillion chord substitutions both. And Archie was a prolific bass player, and he couldn't stop noodling on his bass. He was a little busy for me, but that's why I brought him down in the mix. But really, really prolific players. And she was a Christian. And I think Archie was too. And now she has gone to heaven. But now I think to myself, she would have been a great person to collaborate with for Presence Jazz, wouldn't she? Because can you imagine those sounds? If you're coming in late, you want to go back and hear that tune again. Imagine those sounds, those piano sounds, with all those substitutions and refinements done on the music that we can worship to. That was a Johnny Mandel song called The Shadow of Your Smile. And he does have, he has that ear for writing music that takes you in unexpected places. And he is a songwriting genius. So he's not writing in four simple chords, but all songs, if you really break it down, have simple structures that just wind up being enhanced by the musicianship of a writer who knows how to add that extra thing in it to shift your ear. And so what she brought to that was amazing. And why am I sharing it? I don't know. I just was looking for it. I heard it. I thought, I'm going to play a jazz standard and look back and thank God, because what I've been telling you guys is that, it's plugging along. It's recalculating route. It's rewiring. It's showing up. It's little things over and over. It's moving out of passivity. And what I did with Dream Farm Radio was I committed to producing 26 jazz shows a year that would then repeat. We'd have one repeat in the year. So 26 Sundays, I had to book musicians, to find them in Boston, to book them, to bring them up, to promote them. I had a producer, Don Richardson from MLC Recording, who is just an amazing guy, and he came over, brought all his stuff into the barn, and we would record everybody live in the barn, so we could reproduce what it's like to perform in there. And then Don and I would edit them down, and we had to learn to, when we started getting placed on NPR stations, we had to figure out the breaks and the timings and the now for our word from our sponsor moments, and then how to upload so that the stations could pull them into their programming. And we had to build out a whole system for that. It still exists, and I have 7 or 8 years of shows. If you go to dreamfarmradio.org, the most incredible musicians from all over the world, and I always do something with them. And then we had some compilation shows, and it's fresh music. And very rarely did I ever have anybody on the program that whose music didn't inspire me in some way. And so it really taught me how to hear, how to love, how to value, how to risk, because there was always that time in the show when I was going to play with musicians who were far better than I. And it's interesting because this song, I'm singing Shadow of Your Smile. It wasn't a hard song for me, but if you knew my singing, you'd know that was a stretch for me in terms of just really laying into the groove of the tune and in my voice and being free to interpret it a little better. There's some tentativeness in the way I sang it. Yeah, it works. There's nothing, no big muffs or bluffs, but you can hear that they're in a different level than I am. And for me, every single one of these things was risk. And it's interesting because stop it. Why do people feel like they can call you from an 888 number when you're doing everything else? So sometimes you get to look back and say, this is proof of concept. This is my body of work. And I have a different body of work now. But what really launched me into talking to all of you is the fact that I did 8 years of shows, and I put on concerts. And it was interesting. I got to play at the #1 jazz club in Boston, which was I'd go there to see my icons. I'd go there to see at the top. That was Sculler's Jazz Club in Cambridge. And I got to do a show there. It was interesting because I got my band, just getting that band together. There was a band called Sunyata that came and did a show with me. And actually, we did a radio show, and then we did a live show, because I was also doing Dream Farm Cafe events where we turned the barn into a live show environment, into a jazz club once a month. And then actually the radio shows came from there. And this matters because this is a body of work that came out of the process of learning to live fear-free. In the process, not in the perfection, not in the I've got it all, but in the process, the messy process. And so I set up a scare me schedule. Do you have a scare me schedule? My scare me schedule was every month I'm going to have a live jazz event in my barn. The beautiful thing was I had rampant stage fright, but I had a barn. And so I created an environment that felt like home to me. I could rehearse there. My family did all the background work in the back line, so to speak, setting up the chairs and the sound system. And I sold the tickets, and I did all the advertising, and I brought people in and created this thing and created this E-list. So we were the happening thing in southern New Hampshire. for jazz, and people started hearing about it and wanting to, and people were begging me to come. Can I play in your barn? So I became what somebody called me once was an impresario, a producer of events. And so I was terrified, but I had resources. I had a way to set things up so that I could have the softest landing possible when I was taking the biggest level risks for me. And so every month I had an event, and my whole life was kind of scheduled in many ways toward the Scare Me event. And my family stepped in. We were homeschooling, so that became part of their education and their social life, and their arts enrichment was to be involved in these events. And kids and other families would bring their kids, and we'd pack this barn out, and people were hanging from the rafters to hear this music. And I created an environment where I would interview the musicians between songs so that people could understand what they were playing, because people didn't realize they liked jazz. So I was using these resources, thinking outside the box, another way to skin the cat. And every month, a huge thing that was very scary for me. And I learned how more and more skills to help me as I got stronger and stronger. And then it turned into the radio show. And then there was this, these twice a month, we had recording sessions. They would come in, and I had to be on it. I had to understand their music. I had to interview them. I had to set it up. I had to promote it. I had to, get the shows ready to go out and all that stuff. And I had to perform with them and be ready to do that. And this song that I played for you at the beginning was one of those things from the early days, 2011. And it's called The Shadow of Your Smile. And you can hear where I am in the process. If you know, if you really hear a super confident singer sing that song, you would feel differently about it. You would feel like it really just locked in and took flight, like you hear the piano player. But you know what? I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud I showed up. I'm so proud I scared myself and that we worked through it. And now it's in my proof of concept file. And now if you go to dreamfarmradio.org, you can hear all of those shows and see what we did, to the point where I was interviewed. It's on the website, probably 4 different times on NPR's Here and Now, which is their top flight morning news show. And I was a guest on there, and I would go to Boston and be interviewed to talk about Dream Farm Radio. And so I had my, kind of cool NPR personality moment in the sun. And I also learned some things about how they manipulate the news. But it was a beautiful thing. And now my shows are still out, being cycled on some stations around the country, and that's how it works. So I get to look back and say, look at all the good work that happened in the midst of my nerves and my panicky moments and my weaknesses, where I know in some of these shows and settings, I know that I didn't sing it or perform it the way I wanted to. I can hear it. But not everyone else can, and that's not even the point. The point is, I have to learn. You have to learn. You have to give yourself permission to learn not to be scared anymore. Isn't that a beautiful thing? And so there's a beautiful body of work in your life, and in process interaction is harder. Yeah, we can freeze. So Rebecca, you want to know and understand, why are you freezing? Your body is preparing and prepping for something to come at you. And so you're freezing because your brain has learned to turn its attention to something else besides, it's glitching because it's trying to protect you over here. So you want to learn to dial down and to put yourself in settings over and over where your brain can learn that where you freeze, it's not an existential threat. You're not going to die. So you can be okay, and your brain can relax and remember what you need to remember and stay focused. And sometimes it helps. When I started to tell you this, and then I'll kind of maybe hopefully wrap up with a little nugget or two for you guys. When I found the band Senyata that came and they did a show, they did a concert, I played with them and they backed me up on one of my tunes, which was my scare me moment every show or and a lot of times when I did live shows, I would open for every band. So I had to do a little set every time. And I learned that one of my skills is connecting with an audience. So when I talk to an audience, when I tell stories about my music, and when I relate with them from my heart, I was unnerving myself. I was in it, like I was nervous and I was unnervicing myself. I was connecting with them, and I had a skill that I could use to calm myself for the greater risk. And I realized that by stepping in and talking and being myself and letting them see more and more of what it took for me to bring that to them, it helped me be okay being imperfect. Because I could begin to communicate to my audience. I'm just little Julie Lavender from Bakersfield, California. I tried never to apologize and say, I'm just so scared in front of all you people. I never did that. Like, I'm just terrified, and you don't have any idea what I'm trying to get over right now, so I hope you guys are just really nice to me because I'm terrified. But I found ways to let them into the authenticity of where I was related to the music, to my life experience, to my testimony, because I always minister. Even if I'm doing a jazz set, I'm ministering to people one way or another. And I found a way to show up and allow myself to be seen in the process. And one night the Senyata band was there, and so afterwards I thought, you know what, I think the chemistry is good. I think this particular band could be the band that I work on to bring together to do gigs in Boston, which was one of my dreams. And so I talked to them and I said, would you guys like to back me up? And of course, even though they're world-class musicians, they always need a gig and they always need some money. And they like playing with each other, so it was like, sure, lady, if you want to pay us to be in your band, yes. But it turned out they really liked my music. They were like, hey, you got something going on. So it was a affirmation. But after I started working with them, I just said to the drummer, Rodrigo Bonelli, I said, I just got to tell you, I am overcoming stage fright. And I am really dealing still with a lot of fear. And I just want to be able to tell you about it. Because I'm wanting to work with you to help, And he said, oh my gosh, Julie, when I first started performing, he said, I would throw up before I performed. I know what it's like. I would be so sick. Now, and this guy was just, all day and twice on Sundays with his performance. And I said, do you still have it? He goes, no, I don't, But I mean, to be able to find that God brings you these people that have what you need when you need it, right? And you have skills and resources that you can use to help you as you get in more and more fear-free. The thing of it is we like to go to those skills and resources, our strengths, to avoid dealing with our weaknesses entirely. So we'll go over here and function in all our strengths. I'm an awesome homeschool mom, ministry person, organizer, community servant, these kind of things. Everyone, wow, Julie, you really do that. You're great at that. But so I could have done that for the rest of my life, and everyone would have thought I was happy as a clam. But inside me, I knew I had to sing. I had to perform. So I was using all those skills to avoid. Instead, when I determined to become fear-free and didn't really let God help me deal with this, I could use those skills to strengthen me in the pursuit of that calling and that freedom. So, the shadow of your smile, right? The shadow under the wings, the shadow of his wings, the shadow of his smile, the shadow of, being even in the shadow of our fear and knowing that he's with us there. This has kind of been my story, and now it'll be interesting to see what happens. My dream now is to bring together a band of musicians, jazz musicians, top quality, that can work with me on my music again, but have it be really totally fixed on presence jazz, on jazz that focuses on the presence of God in one way or another and brings people into presence experiences with him, and that's clearly spiritual music, and not where I'm trying to, compete with somebody who can do the standards better than I can, or trying to make a name for myself as the next somebody. I want to make a name for him, bringing music that no one expects, and being able to become more and more free so that like that gal, yes, the pianist here, she just blew everybody away. She couldn't stop playing. I thought maybe she played a little bit too much, but she just couldn't stop it. And she was so free. But there's a point in time when a musician is so free, so happy being in their skin, that you can actually disappear. You actually disappear. When you're afraid, you're very, very self-involved. Fear makes you very extremely obsessed with yourself. And that's another story. Because sometimes we think we're spiritual to be afraid, We spiritualize our fears. But fear will make you totally self-obsessed. And freedom, even if you wind up being bigger and louder and more of you everywhere and your gifts out there, in a way, you get to do all that and kind of disappear in the process. It's a beautiful thing. So you can catch me at julielavender.com when Periscope goes away. DLive, Twitch. I'm still on the Tube of You. Still on Twitter somehow. We're going to do a final broadcast with Greg Harvey on the 30th. On his platform on the 30th at 9 p.m. Eastern, and a final broadcast on Crown Chats with Lisa Perna at 8 a.m. and a whole group of broadcasters. My interview with Greg Harvey, I had such high hopes for it yesterday, just it wasn't working. The technology just kicked me out of his show like every 2 minutes. So we'll figure that out. And I got t-shirts coming. Oh my gosh, you guys are going to want these. And I look forward to getting those out the door. So go do something that scares you.